Hi, my name is Alma, and I'm going to be talking about the books that I'm going to be reading for January 2024. And I can't believe it's January, and it's just crazy. But thank you for joining me on my channel today, and we're going to talk about books that I'm going to be reading. And I have a ton of books that I'm putting on my pile of possibilities. I have fantasy that I'm going to be reading, sci-fi that I'm going to be reading, Christian fiction that I'm going to be reading, and then also some books that are going to be counted towards some reading challenges that some booktubers have put together, and I'm going to join right in, and I'll give you all those books that I plan to read for the prompts for January. Again, thank you for joining me today, and let's go. So these are the books that I have on my January TBR, and I have quite a few, so more like a pile of possibilities. I would like to get through most of them if I can, but if not, that's okay. Just do what you can. So I wanted to read like a wintry feel book at the start of January. So I'm going to read The Snow Child. And I've heard a lot about this book, that it's kind of like a fantasy magical kind of book, and it's by Ewan, or Ewan Ivy. Sorry if I mispronounced her name, but anyway, I picked this up on Pango recently, which was pretty cool. I love shopping Pango books. But anyway, I picked this one up, and because I had heard about what the story was, and it's based in Alaska, 1920, and kind of the story revolves around a couple that are living in Alaska, that they don't have any children, and they one night they build a snowman or snow child in near where they live, and then in the morning the snowman snow child is gone, but yet they find a child in the woods, and so it's kind of a mysterious, maybe magical fantasy story. So I'm looking forward to reading that one. This one has been on my TBR for a while, and so I was just waiting for the winter to read it. The next book on my list is Caravel by Stephanie Garber, and this has also been on my TBR for a while. I've been wanting to read this ever since I found out about the next three books that follow the first three books of this series. And I wanted to read the other series, but I was told it'd be better if you read this one first, this series first, because then you'll get to know the characters and that kind of thing. So this is not a new book by any means. It's been out for quite a while. I'm just catching up to all these fantasy books that I haven't read in a long time, that I haven't got a chance to read. But I have heard that a lot of people love this uh, fantasy story. So I'm looking forward to reading it, and hopefully I'll like it. And then I will be able to continue on with the other books. So I really have been interested in more like sci-fi fantasy this end of the year. So I'm gonna try to do a lot more of those for January. So I had Caravel and the Snow Child, and then this next one is more like sci-fi dystopian kind of feeling. I My family and I watched this series on Apple TV called Silo. We really liked it, the storylines, and then I heard it was based on a book, so I really wanted to read those. And my son gifted me the whole set for Christmas this year, so I was super excited. So I definitely wanted to put this one on my January TBR. The book is called Wool. You can kind of make it out, Wool, and it's by Hugh Huey, and it's if you haven't got around to seeing the series, if you have Apple TV, it's really interesting, pretty really interesting. The kind of the wool is has to do with like pulling the wool over people's eyes, I believe, but it's sci-fi, and I love sci-fi movies, and I haven't read a whole lot of sci-fi books, but since I've already seen the series, I kind of know what to expect. And they always, you know how they always say the books are always better than the movies and TV shows. So I'm looking forward to this one. And then, like I said, there's 3 books that came in the set that my son gifted me. So this is the first. The next one in my sci-fi fantasy January TBR is going to be Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn. I already started it. I was going to read it last month, and I started it last month, but as you can see, I didn't get too far because I started reading a lot of Christmas books, and so I got kind of carried away with those. So I set this on the back burner. I said, well, I'll just restart it in January. That way, it'll be part of my sci-fi fantasy January TBR. And so this book is part of a uh, 3 book series, at least the first part. I know he has several others. I'm new to Brandon Sanderson. I've read his book Tressa by the Emerald Sea last year, which I really loved, but this one is a totally different storyline. At, and as far as I've read it so far, I have kind of the gist of what the story is, and I know I'm going to have to read it a little slower to get down the characters and the powers that they have and the world that's being built in the story. It's brand new and everything. So I'm not used to reading high fantasy by any means. This isn't quite as high fantasy as I've been told. This is an easier one to get into for as far as his fantasy. So I'm looking forward to finishing this and then getting the other books read. I actually picked the whole uh, the whole trilogy up. So I'm excited to finish this one and get the other ones going as well. The next book I have is another. It's not new by any means. It's a one that's been around a while. It's called Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, and I picked this up at a library sale last year, and I just never got around to reading it. And I had other things that I wanted to read, and this one is another kind of like fantasy book as well. So I thought, well, perfect. I'll put it in my January fantasy set fantasy TBR. And I've seen a lot of other people recently pick this up as well. So it'd be fun to read it along with everybody else in January. And I know oh, yeah, there's a Netflix show. And so after I read the books, I'll watch the show. Haven't seen the show. And I've had it on my shelf. Like I said, I got this the beginning of the year, I think last year, but I really don't know what it's about. But I just know it's a good fantasy. So I'm going to read it and see how it goes. Last book is actually a library book that I picked up. This book is called The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. And this one is another one that I saw recommended for fantasy books. And it's another one where this one might be the one that if I don't finish, if I may not get to this one. It's one of the ones I'll get to it if I'm able to by the end of the month. But it sounds really good. Has a lot of high ratings, and so I'll be interested if any of you have read this. Oh, I got the library tag there. If any of you have read this, if you know what you think, if I should definitely bump it up up on my list to read. Like I said, it's a library book, but I have plenty of time in January to recheck it out if I need to, because it's not a new book by any means. So these next few books for my January TBR have to do with the reading challenges, the yearly really reading challenges that I'm going to be participating in this next year. The first one is done by Chantel Reads All Day, and her book challenge is called Read Your Bookshelf Challenge. Now, I did her bookshelf challenge last year for the first time, and I had a great time doing that one, and I completed all those months. Now, so she did it differently this year, and I'll make sure to link her video announcement video with all the prompts and the PDF that you can download and print out for yourself as well. So her first prompt for January that I'm going to do is, if you're following, you have two paths that she's going to have you go along, and I picked the one path that starts in January that says you have a dog on the cover. The other path is if you have a cat on the cover. So I'm a dog person, so I picked the dog on the cover. And so I have a couple that I could thinking about doing, but the first one that that I'm going to do, because my TBR is so long, I'm going to have to, I want to try to read all the books, but if I don't, I want to put some small books on here too. So this first one that I'm going to do it's called Hachi Waits. And if you've ever seen the movie Hachi with, I'm trying to think of the actor's name. Oh, I got to think of it. But anyway, it's a tearjerker. My daughter and I love it. So I've been wanting to read this book. I actually have two of these books because I accidentally bought two when I already had one. But anyway, and it's just a short little middle grade book. But dog on the cover, I'm going to go for that one. Now, if by the end of the month I have time and I read a lot of my other books, um, I may get to this one, and it also has a dog on the cover, and it's called Justice Mission, and it's by Lynette Eason. And I have never read any of her books, and I have picked this up at a library sale, and so I'm going to try it out. It's like a love-inspired suspense little book, and so, like I said, at the end of the month, if I have time, I might pick this one up and count that towards that prompt as well. The second yearly challenge that I'm going to be doing is put on by Paperbacks and Ponytails, and she is doing an around the world readathon. You just travel a little map. It's super cute, and I'll also post her announcement video as well. Now, her first prompt for January is to read a book that has something on the cover that you would pack for like a trip. So I picked Salt to the Sea because it has shoes on it, and you would pack shoes whenever you are going to go on a trip, right? And this is by Ruta Sepetys, and this is another book that I had on my list to do last year, and I never got around to it. I picked this up on Pango Books, and somebody, I don't know if you can see, somebody already tabbed it for me because I bought it used, but that's kind of cute. So looking forward to this book, and this is about set in winter 1945. It's just forced refugees, forced secrets, um, about a tragedy, and they kind of talk about similar to Titanic. And I love reading books about the Titanic, stories about the Titanic. It's not about the Titanic, but it's kind of similar, I guess, with the shipwreck or something like that. So I'm looking forward to this one for that challenge. The third yearly reading challenge that I'm going to be doing is put on by Jane Reads, and I think this might be her first time doing, because I don't think she did one last year, or at least I don't remember seeing one. But hers is a Christian fiction yearly reading challenge, which I love because I've been reading a lot of Christian fiction. And her prompt for January is start a first book in the series. So start a series. And so I am going to be reading Submerged by Dana Petrie, and I picked up this whole set, and I believe there are five of these books, and I picked up this whole set in off of eBay and got at a great deal. So I was excited about that, and my mother-in-law already actually read the whole series really quick, like within a few weeks. And she loved it, and she told me that I would love it too. So this is a suspense. Alaskan Courage is the series, and I didn't want to read too much about it because I didn't want to ruin it for me, since it is like a suspense thing. But like I said, I've heard a lot of great things, so this is going to be my book for the Jane Reads challenge of starting the series. And hopefully by the end of the year, I'll have all 5 books. But I've heard from people and I've seen that once you start it, it's hard to put down and you just want to keep reading the rest of the books. So I might finish this series pretty quickly in the year, hopefully. And then the last yearly reading challenge that I'm going to be doing this year, I think. I don't know if I'm going to add any more to my list, but it's by Oshina. Oshina, gotta read them all. Oshina's challenge, and she reads a lot of romance books. So she did she had one last year, and I did not do it because last year I didn't really read a lot of romance. It's like a newer genre to me. Towards the end of the year, I did read more, but so I really wanted to do her challenge and try to keep up with it. And I really like the way she did her challenge this year because she did it to where we have 12 prompts, but we don't necessarily have to do them in order. We can do one prompt at the end that's on the end of the list, the beginning, just depending on what we're reading that month. And it's kind of cool because then you can just fit in um, your books as you go through the year. So um, I have been binge watching Downton Abbey this holiday season. So I would really love to read a book, a romance historical fiction book that's set kind of in that time frame. And so somebody suggested Carrie Turansky's The Governess of Highland Hall. I'm trying to read this. And this is a series as well. So I just picked this up at my library, and I'm going to see if I can read this month. It sounds really interesting about a young woman that goes to work at one of these big estates like they have on Downton Abbey, and her life there. And like I said, I've been binge watching Downton Abbey, and so it's kind of in the mood for that kind of things right now. So in her reading challenge, she has one slot for uh, historical romance. So I think this is going to count as my historical romance book. So those are the 4, I guess it is 4 yearly reading challenges that I'm going to be doing this year. And then those are my 4 selections for January. Okay, one more book to add to my January TBR. Like I don't already have enough, but we're going to pick one more book. And so in this jar, I have a bunch of books that I purchased over the past year. I purchased either through Pango Books or I got them at my library sale, monthly library sale, which I can get. I've gotten some really great books for dirt cheap, like 50 cents for paperbacks and $1 for hardbacks, which is amazing. So I have a bunch of those books, or maybe some even maybe from a free little library. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, so I have all these books that I didn't get around to reading last year, and I really want to make kind of a priority to get some of them read. And so I'm put them all in here, and I'm going to go ahead and choose one out of here for January. So let's see, and I hope it's not a big thick one. Okay, I got one. Okay, here we go. Set that aside. And it is, sorry. Oh, I don't know if you can see it. It's from Sand and Ash. So I'll be right back. I'm gonna go get it. Okay, so here's the book that I picked from my jar from all the books that I really want to try to get to read. I didn't get to read them last year, so I'm gonna try to read this one. And this is by one of my favorite authors that I discovered this past year, Amy Harmon. And I read, let me think, the last book I read from her was A Girl Called Samson, which I loved, What the Wind Knows, and where the something about where they wander. Oh, I'm sorry, apologize. But anyway, I believe I gave all her books that I read last year 5 stars. So this is one that I picked up from Penguin Books, and I heard that this one is one of her good ones as well. It's based in Italy in 1943, and I'm not sure what it's about. It just says it's a sweeping, epic story of love, war, and the resilience of the human spirit. I like I said, I really love Amy Harmon's writing, and I'm looking forward to reading this. And it's not too bad, not pretty good size book that I'll be able to read in January. So there you go. Books that I have like a pile possibility so far for this month of January. If there's any books that I have, the readathon books or the um, just the regular books. If you've read any of those, let me know what you thought about them. And then also, actually, I might have some other books read because I homeschool my daughter, and we try to do a lot of read alouds the month, during the months. So I'll be reading those too because I count those as my books, towards my books that I read of the month as well. And so that's all I have regarding my January TBR. I'm looking forward to starting the new year with everybody. And thank you for watching, and I hope you come back.